I'm pleased to have joining me today on Sounds of the Emerald Isle from the Irish Rovers, George Millar. Welcome to the show, George.
Thank you, my friend. How are you doing this year? I haven't talked to you in a while.
It's been a while, George. Yes, I'm doing very good, thanks. How are you doing?
Excellent. Couldn't be better, and sort of getting ready for Christmas and doing all of that stuff. Our tour just ended a couple of days ago, so normally it doesn't end till about the 15th or 16th of December, so this time it's a wee bit earlier, and I'm delighted. I can get out and go to the malls with everybody else and do the shopping.
That's fantastic. Now, I see all your shows have been sold out.
Yes, it was a mighty tour. It was absolutely fantastic. I think everybody was just maybe in a Christmassy mood, and we all had a good time. And it's a blessing after all these years that people are still interested to come and see us and hear us. And we're absolutely blessed because of it. And couldn't ask for nicer fans in the world. They're great. They really are.
Absolutely. Well, they have good taste, because I'll tell you, in my 31 years on the radio, the only time the Irish Rovers didn't get played on a show is very few times when I had a live band in or a live singer, and that was all we did. And
okay.
That's the only time you guys don't get played. So your music is awesome, and you've always been one of my favorites. So
well, it's I think it's a universal feeling these days. Everybody needs a wee bit of happiness and a little bit of up-tempo fun, and that's what the Irish Rovers have always done. We've never been, as you know, we've never been a political band. We don't take sides in too many things, and we just sing sort of the happy songs of Ireland, and the songs that we write are also happy-sounding songs. I just feel that when people come to our concert for a couple of hours, the last thing they need is me preaching to them about anything. They just want to have a bit of fun like we do, and so that's what we do for a couple of hours. We just have fun, and it usually rubs off on the audience, and they have a bit of fun as well, and that's what it's all about. It's certainly not rocket science of any means. It's just a matter of going up there and having a bit of fun and make people happy for 2 hours. It's a great feeling.
Absolutely. Now, you've been writing songs over the years, too. You've written some great tunes.
Yes, I've always, there's a little secret to writing for us, is the fact that you have to sort of write old-fashioned, so it has to sound like maybe the song is 100 years old, and if somebody comes up to me and says, oh, that's a good old song, where did you find that? And if it's actually one I've written, well, that's actually a good compliment to me, because I write them to make them sound old. So
yeah.
That's how it's done for our type of a band, anyway.
Yeah, now you wrote the song about the Titanic.
Yes, I did. I felt it was time to do that. We're all from around Belfast originally, and of course the Titanic was built in Belfast, so it just seemed like it was high time that we did something for the city of Belfast and the Titanic. And it was also my birthday when not the same year, mind you, I'm not quite but it was my birthday when the ship struck the iceberg on April 14th. So I've always known, growing up in my early years, I've always known about the Titanic, and I've always wanted to do something for the poor souls that were on board and had no chance at all. So that's what the song was about, not to glorify it in any way, just to sort of put down the facts. And it turned out really a nice little song, and we've been doing it in the last couple of concert tours, and people seem to really like it. So I'll do it next March as well. Absolutely.
It's a great song. And actually, all the songs that you've written are great songs, even going back to the 60s. There's some great numbers there, I'll tell you.
Like I say, it's usually I have to write a song that fits the band, and that's what I try to do. And as long as it's a good up-tempo song and the words are decent, then it's okay, and the people like it. And it's for the people, so that's what it's all about.
Now, who's in the Irish Rovers as we speak?
Well, as we speak, we have myself, of course, and Wilsel. We're the two originals. And we have a fellow called Sean O'Driscoll, who is from Cork, and he lives in Cork, and Wilsel actually lives in Larkin in the north of Ireland. So two of the boys live there. My cousin Joe retired 5 years ago, and his son Ian has taken his spot. He plays the bass and sings the nice ballads. We have a drummer from Belfast called Fred Graham. We have another singer who lives up in the island not too far from me called John Reynolds. He's also been with us for about 20 years now. So it's sort of a never-ending thing that comes in and out. But you know, the fact of the matter is, no matter who's in the band, we still sing the same type of songs, and they'll still hear the Black Velvet Band and the Orange and the Green, and of course the Unicorn. And in this last tour, they heard Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. So we still have to sing those songs, and we're very happy to sing them because it's not a lot of groups that can have all sorts of hits like we've had. So we're very, very delighted to sing them. Anytime people want, we'll sing them.
That's for sure. And that new Santa song that Jennifer sent me is great.
Well, it's an old song. I think it was Mitch Millar and the gang used to sing that about 100 years ago. So we sort of sped it up a wee bit and made it more Irish-like and sort of polka Irish, and so everybody seems to be enjoying it. And I think for North Americans, I think it's one of those songs that most of the school children learn when they're in school, or maybe at the Girl Scouts or wherever they go. It's one of those type of songs. So it's yes, when they hear something familiar, although it might be done with an Irish strain, they still enjoy it.
Now, I never thought of Mitch Miller. Is he related to you, by the way, at all?
No.
No, okay.
Certainly not, no.
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 No, he had a lot of great songs, but I thought that sounded familiar, but I didn't know Mitch Miller had done that.
Well, I think actually Burl Ives also might have recorded it years ago as well, because he had quite a few Christmas songs as well. So I think it was quite well known back in the late 50s and early 60s.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you play guitar, and what else?
I play guitar, I play the bouzouki, and I play a little bit of mandolin, nothing to write home about, mainly the guitar, and I sing, and that's enough, believe me. I don't think I could do much more anyway.
You did play 5-string banjo, though, didn't you?
I did at one point. I picked it up and played it on a couple of albums here and there, but I haven't. It's sitting in my garage right now with all of our old TV shows, and I haven't actually touched the 5-string banjo in probably 10 years.
Oh,
not
really?
Because I didn't like it, but just because I went on to other things is what I've done, and so I suppose that's what happens sometimes. You sort of put one thing down and pick something else up. So that basically is what happened, but it's still there, and once in a while I might just take it out and give it a wee plunk.
Well, it's funny. One time on the radio I had mentioned that I was mentioning you had written a song and played it, and I said that you played banjo and stuff, and one of my listeners says, no, George doesn't play the banjo, and I said, well, I remember seeing him play the banjo on the Battle of New Orleans at the South Shore Music Circus.
Absolutely. You've got a heck of a memory. That is absolutely amazingly right, because we sang that song, and I played the banjo because my brother Will at the time, who usually played banjo, was playing the tin whistle on that song. So that's why I played the banjo on it. So you're right. You've got a great memory.
Well, I wish I've seen you guys in recent years, though. I haven't seen you for a while, and I'm hoping that we'll see you somewhere in the Boston area before you stop touring.
Well, we're hoping that too. I'm not sure what about. I know that we're playing one of the casinos near. I guess it's somewhere in Connecticut, which I guess is not too far from Boston, but far enough for people who couldn't actually come to it. But we're looking at a fall tour, and we are looking at doing around the Boston area and hopefully back out to the coast where we used to play in those big round tents. They were great. Like I think Cohasset was one of them. And,
that's what South Shore Music Circus, where I used to see.
Music, exactly. Well, we haven't been there in donkey's ages, and I think it's time before we retire that we went back there.
Absolutely. We'd love to see you back this area again.
Well, I would too. It was we've always enjoyed it, and the people have always been very kind to us around there. And well, they're all like Irish people anyway. If they're not born in Ireland, they're all second-generation Irish. And we used to have some wild times out there. I remember Paddy Riley used to be out there all the time at the Harp and Bard was the name of the
absolutely
pub out that way.
Yeah, that was a great place.
Yes, I remember going in there once or twice.
Yeah, those were great places. They actually had 3 locations at one point, but
yes,
and then they disappeared, and that was a shame.
Yeah, it's these. Well, I suppose, Jim, there's a life to everything, and everything comes and goes like that, and you can't really bemoan it too much because while it was there, we certainly used it to our full advantage and had a great time.
Absolutely. You know what? A great show. One time, you had Jimmy Joyce with you.
Yes, we did, yes.
And Jimmy Joyce and my dad were very close friends as kids. They grew up together, and I was so glad because I had never met Jimmy, and I went to your show, and Jimmy was performing with you that time, and it was great.
Yes, isn't that nice? There was a lot of good old Irish things around Boston in those days. Lots of friends of ours went on to form their own bands, and a lot of Irish people who emigrated, they seemed to come to that Boston area. It was sort of... It was like New York had been maybe 100 years earlier, but everybody seemed to come to Boston and all out there, and they were treated royally, and they were usually if they weren't singers, they could find jobs fairly easy. So it was a really good place to come, and we certainly enjoyed our years around there. Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Now tell me about the Drunken Sailor. I read that on YouTube you guys had 6 million hits on the Drunken Sailor. Tell us. Well,
apparently it's now up at 9 million. I'm not sure what's going on. Somebody phoned me about a year ago and they said, I've just heard your song on YouTube to a bunch of pictures of sailing ships. And I said, oh, it's probably not us. It's probably one of those young rock and roll type Celtic bands from Boston or Toronto or somebody like that. I said, it's probably not us. And he said, no, I think it sounds like you boys. So I said, all right, I'll have a wee look. So I got on, and sure enough, it was us. And there was two of them. There was another one that was at 3 million hits, and it was pictures of Johnny Depp. And then once again, it was us singing The Drunken Sailor. So because of that, we put out a new album called The Drunken Sailor, sort of around that, and it's selling great. And it's a lot of younger people that have picked up on it. And I was one of these people because of my age that I just didn't put too much stock in the internet and on YouTube. But I've changed my mind greatly, and I realized it's quite a tool. It's a marketing tool, and I don't know how it works. All I know is that it does work. So I have to wait for my grandkids to come over for Christmas, and they can show me how to get on the internet and how to do all these things.
There's some absolutely great clips of the Irish Rovers on YouTube. Stuff keeps coming out, and you keep wondering, where does anybody get this stuff? It's fantastic.
Well, it's mainly from our TV shows that we did from about 1970 right through to 83, and they were mostly CBC up in Canada, but PBS showed a lot of them all through the States, and then the other one came along, and it was Toronto and Ulster TV in Ireland. They both produced it, so a lot of the shows were done half in Ireland and half in Canada, and they're not available. I actually have them all sitting here in my garage, like I said earlier. I have them all on the big tapes, which I really do have to get them transferred onto digital before they all melt away or something.
Absolutely.
But, those were, I've looked at them, and I've actually had several phone calls from different stations asking if we could show them. And I just said, I think it's just a bit early yet. Maybe when we retire, I might put them out. But, we've got hair down to our backsides, with big pants, bottoms on them, and strange clothes, and all these gold bracelets and all around our necks like the 70s was. So it's a little, it's embarrassing for me to look at them now. Everybody else thinks they're cute. But maybe one of these days we'll get them out.
Absolutely. Those were great days. They really were, George.
Yes.
And the music was always great. It still is. Some of the new stuff that you people are recording is just awesome. You get better with age.
Well, what happens is with bands, a lot of bands, as you know, break up, or something happens to them, or they can't agree, they don't get along, or the famous saying, which I love, when they say we have philosophical musical differences. Well, damn it, you think they would have known that when they started the group if they weren't all on the same page. But with our band, it's part of the secret of why we're still doing it after 48 years and enjoying it. It's more important to enjoy what you're doing because when you're on stage, if you're not enjoying it, then the people out there, the audience, is soon going to catch on that you're not enjoying it, that you're just doing it for no reason at all, and they'll stop coming. So we genuinely like each other. We all get along very well. We respect the music that we've done all these years, and we'll always respect it. And I think those are two very important things that you have to be on stage. You have to respect your music, and you have to like each other. That's the two key ingredients of the Rovers all these years.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And the audience picks up on that, and they get into it really big.
Well, they do, and of course we encourage that. And like I've said before, it's like coming to see us for 2 hours is like going to your psychiatrist, and it's not a quarter of the cost. You'll never be able to see him when you leave one of our shows.
No, that's for sure. Your shows are always enjoyable. Now, you're going to stop touring at some point, I understand.
Well, we're looking at 2015, which is 2 more years from now, approximately. It would be our 50th anniversary as a band. And we're just thinking that would be an awfully good time. It's a good round figure, 50 years of traveling and sleeping in bad beds and holiday inns and places like that. It's time, I'm thinking, that we're going to hang up the walking shoes. Now, we're not going to retire from the public eye completely. We'll still do some of the festivals during the summer, some of those type of things, like those tents out there. We would still do some of those, and we will still put out CDs, and because I'll still be writing. But it's the daily traveling that we've been doing for so long. It's a young man's game, and it's harder and harder and harder. 9/11 9/11 made it almost impossible for a band like us to travel through airports with 28 pieces of equipment. You can only imagine the turmoil that we go through trying to get on and off flights with with 10 people traveling and equipment and the x-rays you have to go through. It takes us about 4 hours to clear an airport nowadays. So if it's a 7 o'clock in the morning flight, we literally have to be there about 4 o'clock in the morning. So
that is awful. It really is.
It is. Those damn terrorists, they've killed us touring bands is what they've done.
Absolutely. That's awful, George.
Another reason to hit them.
Yeah. That's probably the toughest part of touring now is the airports.
Absolutely, getting to and from there, not getting to them, going through them and, getting on and getting off the planes. Many times what we do now, and I know a lot of groups do the same thing, if it's under 400 miles, well, we rent vans. We get 2 or 3 vans and we all pile into one for the equipment and 2 for us, and we drive it because, in 4 hours on those American freeways, you can do a 400-mile drive in about 6 hours or less. So it's a much easier prospect to sit in a van for 4 hours than it is to try and take a flight for 400 miles. So so that's what's happening nowadays.
Well, that's a great idea doing it that way, but it's still got to take its toll on everybody.
Well, it does, and like I say, we're older now, and we're not young spring chickens like we used to be, and it's definitely a younger man's type of game, and maybe it's time now to let some of the younger bands get out there and take our place and do some of the shows and do a bit of the traveling.
Well, we hope that,
like I say, we're not going to just fade away completely. We'll still be around. You can still phone me, and we can still talk now and again.
That'd be my pleasure, George. It's always great to talk to you, and I hope we'll see you at a concert. I hope that you have a few of them in Massachusetts before you call it quits on the touring part.
We absolutely will, because they're already in the works. They're already looking at some of those dates for 2013 in the later part of the year in October, and if that doesn't happen, it'll be 2014. So we're only a year away, so we'll definitely be doing Massachusetts again, believe me.
Well, that sounds great to me, and I do see on your website, March 17th, you'll be at the Warner Theater in Torrington, Connecticut.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not too far from Massachusetts. So
maybe somebody can jump in their car, and if we can drive 400 miles to get there, certainly they can come 50 miles.
That's true. It's really not that far.
Yes.
And George, your website is theirishroversmusic.com?
That's correct. Yes, it is.
Okay, and that's the best website for people to check out your music and where to get your CDs and
that's right.
Touring dates.
Everything is there, and we also have by the way, I forgot to mention, we have a brand new DVD that was just released, and it was bought by PBS, and they're showing it this Christmas. It was filmed up in the Rocky Mountains up in Canada, with it showing us buffoons trying how to ski. Horrible looking thing. But we did do well in the après-ski in the pubs and in the concert part. So and I believe that some of the PBS stations have already shown it once, but they're going to be showing it 2 or 3 more times before Christmas. So it's just called the Irish Rovers Christmas. So maybe the listeners can keep an ear or eye out for that.
Well, I will look that up here. We've got several PBS stations, 2 in Boston. We've got one in Rhode Island, and I think 2 in New Hampshire. So I'll keep an eye out and let people know where they can see it.
That would be wonderful, and I hope you enjoy it too.
Well, I know I will, George. The Irish Rovers have always been on top, so there's no question that I'm going to enjoy it.
Well, you're a faithful fan and a good friend of ours, and I thank you very, very much. I also want to wish you a great Christmas, and all the listeners a very happy season to them. If they don't celebrate Christmas, then have a good holiday season.
Thank you so much, George, and I wish the same to you and yours. Have a great holiday, Christmas, and we'll hopefully chat again sometime during the coming year.
We most definitely will, my friend, and thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate that.
Thank you very much. George Millar of the Irish Rovers here on Sounds of the Emerald Isle.